course on the internet. This is lesson 2, and today we are going to talk about the basic functions of a camera and even what is a camera. So in 2016, I started a photography class when I was over in South Korea for soldiers and spouses. And the first time I gave the class, I took it over from somebody, and they gave me a slide deck that was 146 slides long. It took me about 6 hours to get through the entire slide deck. And when somebody walked out of the room, I heard them saying, "I don't know anything more about my camera than I did when I walked in." It absolutely broke my heart. So I ditched the slide deck entirely and I walked in with just a basic camera. And I said, "This is what we're going to start with. And we're just going to talk about cameras." Everybody brought their own camera in. We were able to go through the differing functions for everybody else's camera and really help everybody out. So I did that for a while over in South Korea. I really enjoyed it, and it was sort of the precursor to starting this course on YouTube. So here we are. And so the first camera that I want to look at is this old Yashica Electro 35. It's an old film camera. You can see that it's got a lens right there. It's got film. This is a film camera. So to be able to save your images, you had to use film as a medium, and you would pop open the back. You would put a roll in here. You can see it up on the overhead there. You can see we've got a bunch of cameras to choose from here today. Somehow this fiber fixed tape got back in here. I don't know how that happened. So we're looking at the inside. This is where the film would go, and then you would bring the roll over to the edge over here. And as you advanced it with the winder, it would push the film forward, and it would also cock the camera so that you could take a photo. This one's got a lock on it. There we go. If you hear that little click, that means it just took a picture. But where's the picture? The picture was stored on the film, and you had to get the film processed before you could go and see how the picture turned out. In fact, this is a viewfinder camera, so you're not looking through the lens. You're just looking through this hole right here from the back of the camera through to the front of the camera. So you're not even looking directly at what your subject is. You're a little bit off, and you're a little bit higher than the lens is. So when you look through, you had to focus by trying to align the images. And once your images were aligned, here, then you guessed it was in proper focus, and you pushed the button and wait a week to get your images back to see if you took a good picture. This one actually has a battery in it because it would tell you if your light was too bright or too dim. Other than that, there's really no functions whatsoever on this camera. In fact, you can't even remove the lens if you wanted to get a different sort of look to place a new lens on so that you can get a wider angle or you get a telephoto. Nope, with this, what you see is what you get, and that would be the entire camera in itself. So a camera, as a basic function, is a box that captures light. And the first cameras were called camera obscura. It was a room that had a window in it that had a pinhole of light, and that pinhole of light would come down. It would hit a reflection device like a mirror that would aim it down at the table, and then you could draw the reflection of whatever was outside. That was the camera obscura, which had no medium. You just had to draw it in by hand. Then they found out about film, tintypes, other things that made it easier to start capturing the images. A step up from this camera would have been this, also Fujika, not Yashica. This is Yashica. This is Fujika. Might have been similar companies. I'm not sure. But you can tell it's got a really nice leather case. It comes with extra lenses, and you can remove the lens This one's got a solar panel on it, so you didn't need the battery like this camera did. And otherwise, it works basically the same way. You look through this hole here. You kind of try and focus as you're looking through, and then you advance it here and you push the button here. They started getting extra, fancy things on the cameras. They started putting timers on them. They started making, obviously, the lenses removable so that you had more options there. And then they also had like bigger camera bodies so that you could see better. Now, this is a medium format camera. This is also a film camera. This one actually has film in it right now. I don't know if you can see right there. There's a number 4 on there, and that means that 4 images have been taken on this roll of film. This is 110 film, so it takes 10 images at a time. There's 6 more images that can be taken. It has been so long since I've taken any pictures with this that I don't know what those 4 images are. I think the last time I used this, I was either in Korea or I was in the Philippines. So this slide here is called a blackout slide. You put it in place so that when you remove the film back, your film does not get any light to it, and then it won't ruin the film. You flip this top up and you can see through. Can I line that up? Where is it? Oh, it looks like my overhead camera froze. Hold on. That's how you know this is live. I've just got my phone set up here. It timed out. There we go. That back in place. All right. I don't know if you can see through the viewfinder in the top there. Oh, you can, yeah. Look at that. And much easier to focus, and it's a much larger piece of film, so you get hopefully better images off that. There's also a lot more options, like setting your f-stops, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and setting your shutter speed so that you can really get a great image off of there. So I don't know if you can tell, but you can see through that lens right now. And when I was talking about f-stops, the f-stop is the shutter inside. It's blades like the iris of your eye that enables the lens to get darker or lighter. If I can find the switch for it here. There we go. No, that's not it. Wait a minute, go back this way. There you go. Now you can see that is getting darker, and it makes a little pinhole of light, and it gets brighter, and it makes a really big opening for the light to come through. I can't find my thumb. There it is. So this does a couple of things. For one thing, if you're in too bright of an area, you can shut that down and less light will come through and less light will hit your film, or nowadays we use digital cameras, so it will hit the sensor with less light and it makes the image darker. But another thing that this does is the smaller that hole is, the wider your depth of field is. So that means that you'll be able to see from maybe here all the way to here, and it'll be in focus. Whereas when it's wide open like this, you have what's called a shallow depth of field. There it is. So wide open, shallow depth of field. And on a medium format camera, it's even more shallow. So you might focus on the tip of my nose and my ears would be out of focus. And that's where you get that soft focus from, is using a larger aperture opening to get that shallow depth of field. If you're out in doing landscape shots or something, you want as small of an opening as you can get so that the grass in front of you is in focus and the trees and mountains all the way in the distance are also in focus. And what that does is it makes it darker so you have to speed up the shutter speed so that you can get everything at the proper exposure. So we'll talk about the exposure triangle and everything like that in future videos. I just kind of wanted to show you the camera collection right now and give you an idea of what everything does. But I just love these old cameras. I love how functional they are, and all of the pieces and moving parts are a joy to play with. You actually advance the film with this lever here. Click it forward, and then this is the, wait, that's not it. It's been a while since I've used this one. Oh, here we go. This is your shutter right here. So most cameras had the shutter on the top right, like this one, but this camera had it on the bottom right. You had to click it right here. You could also screw something in there that's like a little plunger, and it would let you take a picture, without touching the camera. So it would keep you from getting any kind of camera shake and keep your camera steady if it's up on the tripod, which this camera is very heavy, definitely needs a tripod. I can't believe that I took this to the Philippines with me, uh, but we had a lot of fun with it, and the shots turned out really beautiful. I will share some images with you later. Hard to do when we're live, so maybe if we build up that what's the word for it? Community. If we build the community on YouTube, then we can share images there, and that'll be great. To build a community on YouTube, you have to have 1,000 subscribers. So that's our hope, is that we get to 1,000 subscribers really soon. We're about 2/3 of the way there. So let's move forward in time. We have gotten past the film era. We went through the 80s, struggling with those big, heavy cameras that did take beautiful photos and captured amazing light. I want to put the lens cap on this before I put it away. I'm going to set it over here. We might pull that back out in a little bit. So we're not using film anymore. Now we're using digital cameras. And this is one of my personal Nikon Z6 cameras. I have 2 of these. It's not really as fancy as it might look because it's got this cage on here, but I use these for video also. So the cage allows me to maybe mount a microphone here, or put a monitor on here so I can see what's going on. The other Nikon Z6 that I own is sitting back there behind the teleprompter. I'm not using the teleprompter today, but the camera's already set up on the tripod, so I don't want to mess with that. But I really love this camera. I think this is one of the best cameras for real estate photography, which I've been doing for a while now. I had my own real estate photography company when we lived in Maryland. We're in Texas now. I work for a company, but having that real estate photography company enabled me to build a portfolio that would get me hired by the company that I'm working for now. So it all worked out really well. The one complaint that most people have about this camera is that it only has one card slot. So here's the memory card where all of the information is stored. It's an XQD card. I would complain about that more. Let's put it up here because it's not reversed that way. It doesn't look like you're looking in a mirror. You can read it. So that's the XQD card, and these are really expensive. These can be $200 a piece, which is a lot for a memory card. The camera that I used before this one was the Nikon D800, and this is still beautiful camera, takes fantastic portraits. I believe it's 46 megapixels, so very large images. File sizes are very huge. They're easy to work on when you're manipulating them in Lightroom or Photoshop. And this also has 2 camera slots. So one of them is a regular SD card, and then the other one is a CF card, which isn't really used anymore. So I try not to utilize these too much. I just use this as a backup when I'm doing photos not portraiture as much because I will tether directly to the computer if I'm shooting portraits, and then all the images go directly to the computer, but can be backed up on the SD card. But you can set both of these cards to capture all of the information at the same time, so you have a backup if um, one of the cards doesn't work properly or fails or gets corrupted. Then you have all of the information on the other card. Really important if you're shooting events or weddings or anything like that. This was not my first Nikon camera, but this was my first full frame camera. Full frame means that it has the same size sensor in it that that piece of film had in the 35mm camera, like this. So everything today. Turn my camera back on. I don't know what this other media source is. Hide. There we go. We're back. I'm going to put this overhead camera back up. It just decided to do that all on its own. The platform I'm using is called Restream and enables you to stream to several. Now I'm on the other side. That's funny. And this camera is like sideways. So that's really weird too. But the other thing is, it's really annoying me that I can hear the speakers coming out of the phone. It's kind of bouncing back. I don't know if you can hear that. I hope you can't, but I'm going to do everything I can to make these the best technically and the most informative courses. So the D7000 was just a crop frame camera, but a real workhorse. Very, very nice camera to use. I did over 160,000 photos in a year on that camera, and it just powered through everything that I asked it to do. So I got the D800 because I needed a full frame camera for portraiture. This was the best for portraiture at the time. It's not great for video. And I told myself at the time, I don't have to worry about that because I'm a portrait photographer and I'm always going to take portraits, so I don't have to have great video. And that lasted for about a year. And then video really became the champion of the internet, and everything that everybody was doing was moving towards video. So that's why I ended up getting the Nikon Z6. The Z6 has great video capabilities. You got the little viewfinder can pop off here. You know, we still got a electronic viewfinder here, so you can see everything through the camera. Um, Obviously, you can take the lenses off. You can mount the lenses. Now, this particular camera, they changed the size of the opening here that would accept lenses. So the original Nikon lenses, the mount was a little bit smaller. So you can see those would not match up. You can see the sensor there. So that sensor is the same size as a piece of 35mm film, or what we called a negative. And the medium format camera is, I think, 25% larger. I'm not sure about that. I would have to look that up. But the bigger your sensor is, the more detail you can capture with the camera. So for the portraiture, I needed the bigger camera. I needed to get into more, and this is still a full frame camera, same as the D800. But I needed to get into better video, and that's why I got this. I also use a external monitor when I'm recording, so I can record directly to the external monitor, and I will be able to use the external monitor as a capture device instead of using the one card. So I thought, well, I'm still able to capture externally, but I cannot save to this card and to that card. So maybe I want to get a camera that would enable me to utilize 2 card slots. So when the Nikon Z6 II came out, there's really no visible difference in these cameras. I mean, obviously the lenses are different. This is a fun lens. It's called a tilt shift lens. This is used for architecture mostly. And also this is an older Nikon lens. So to be able to make the older Nikon lens fit on the newer body, I've got what's called an adapter here. So this is the NTZ adapter. So it goes from an end mount Nikon, original Nikon mount, to the Z mount that they use now as a 50 millimeter mount. And that enables me to put the little tiny lens on the new larger opening. Other than that, the only thing that you can really see on this that is different from the original Z6, maybe some internal stuff, but they run the upgrades for both cameras all the time. This one has 2 card slots. One of the card slots is a typical SD card. The other card slot is that CF Express card, just like this has. So why did they go back to the CF Express card if they added an SD card? And I've had issues with recording, particularly, let's get the other camera out here, the Nikon Z7 II, that's this one. This also has 2 card slots. So there's the SD card there, and there's the XQD card. You can see up there. It will not record to both. It won't, let me correct this. It won't record video to both card slots at the same time. So all of that excitement about being able to record onto 2 card slots doesn't work for video. So the hoopla was pretty much pointless, and I still use my Z6 for everything. Like I said, I love this cage around it. I can just really grab it, throw it in a bag, and go. It's much easier to carry, not as much to grab onto on the other cameras, except for the one handhold spot, unless you add something like I did to the D800. I added this little strap here that kind of locks it in so that if I'm walking around with the camera, it's more steady that way. This is really good on a monopod because you can kind of grab the monopod and keep everything really nice and smooth. But I like the camera cage. I like to be able to hook it up to, gimbals and other accoutrements that allow me to utilize this camera in more significant ways. These cameras will take the exact same cages. These are my company cameras, so I haven't upgraded them in that manner. I talked to my manager about it, and he said they will not pay for it. So I'm not going to use it. But I use them on my own cameras, and I really like them. So that's made by Small Rig. If that's something that you would be interested in looking into, then Small Rig is the company to go to for those. These, like I said, are basically the same. They both have the dual card slots. One of the things I wanted to talk about is the difference in the little dials on the top. If I get this one's completely different. This one they tried to go all digital with, so there's really no easy way to get to different modes and things like that. But these cameras, you can see the modes on there. You can kind of see there's an M, A, S, and P. And then there's 3 user settings, U1, U2, and U3. And then there's an auto setting. Now, the Z6, the original Z6 has the same dial, U1, U2, U3, MASP, and auto. It's a little hard to see around the cage there, but basically the same. What do these things mean? In short term, U1, U2, and U3 are your user settings. So whatever you set your camera to and save it in those settings, that's what those are for. Auto is auto, so it works just like another camera that we're going to talk about pretty soon. The camera decides everything. It decides your shutter speed, it decides your aperture, and what it thinks is best for you is what it's going to use. P is priority setting. Priority is another auto setting. So the camera decides what the priority is going to be, and then it chooses what your camera is going to shoot. S is shutter priority. Shutter priority means you choose how fast the shutter is going to click. So maybe if you're doing sports and you need a faster shutter speed, you can choose a high shutter speed, and then the camera will choose the aperture for you depending on the lighting situation that you're in. The A is for aperture setting. We talked about aperture with that other big lens over there. And the aperture setting, you get to choose how wide that hole is inside the lens. And then the camera decides what the proper shutter speed is to get that proper to get your to get your image in focus, not in focus. It's getting late. So the brightness of your film is proper. Boy, going live is hard. Exposure, thank you. Your exposure value will be set by the shutter speed, and you're going to set the aperture. Manual means you are in charge of everything. So there's the M. Oh, that froze up again. I'm not even looking at that anymore. All right, so the M, manual, means you get to choose the shutter speed and you get to choose the aperture setting, and then you decide maybe you want your image a little bit darker, or maybe you want the shutter a little bit slower so that you have some motion blur going through. We're going to talk about those in some other lessons. I wanted to let you know that I am going to be traveling this week. So I wanted to get these out of the way, this lesson, so that you could see some of the lenses, some of the cameras, because I won't have all my gear with me next week. But when we go live next week, I will be on the road. So I'm going to show you my full on the road kit, and we will talk about what I take with me when I'm on the job. Don't forget, we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and once we do that, then we will be able to create our community. In the community, I plan to be able to look at your guys' galleries, and we can get together and discuss images, and you can ask questions. So that's really important for how this course is going to be built out, for us to be able to communicate with each other through that. And I almost forgot, I've got a chat box here too. So if you wanted to ask any questions while we're live, you can ask questions. I can see them here and answer them in real time. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we'll build the community. And I really appreciate everybody jumping on today. So God bless, and we will see you next week. Hey, that phone finally shut off. I set up a video on here that I wanted to share at the end. What's this? That's cool. That's not the one I was looking for. Oh, here we go. God bless you guys.